Well, our investigation will be over by then. Too bad. So you can't talk to us. There's nothing I can tell you that you can't read in the papers. You know, I burned my card a year ago, and I told the board my intention to mutilate my card this week. Did you? It's right here in my apartment now, antiqued and decoupaged into an anti-draft thing that includes the paper the induction center sent me saying I'm unsuitable. Well, it's a shame we can't get together. Ain't it though? Well, I'll tell you guys something. If you should ever come over here, you better come armed with good identification. Just flash a badge at me and I'll say nothing. Anyone can have a badge. I got a badge. It means nothing, could be anybody. What would you consider proper identification? Well, you better have both your draft card and your classification notice, because otherwise I'll get you on a citizen's arrest for non-possession. On Wednesday, 10th of January, while marching as a marching picket line supporting Marston and Brown, I lit up again. This time it was my one-line morally unfit classification notice. The immediate provocation came from Joseph Mlotz, the self-styled Polish freedom fighter, fighting freedom wherever he can find it, and his supporters, who picked up longshoremen from Rosendale according to the newspapers. Joe was carrying one of his usual thought-provoking ticket signs, "Burn, baby, burn," with the Victor Lundbergian suggestion that draft resistors should warm themselves in the glory of their citizenship papers and birth certificates ablaze. His supporters were tossing snowballs and eggs from the Boston Army Diner on the other side of Summer Street. An egg caught me on the left shoulder, creating the circumstances whereby the clean-cut Bureau countered pickets casting aspersion of a manhood that Samson-haired demonstrators could exercise their wit. "You're as yellow as the yolk of the egg. Hey, kid, you got egg on your face." So I decided to turn pyromaniac once again. All those press photographers had nothing dramatic as far as they're concerned going on, so why not force a little confrontation? Let the stevedores foam at the mouth in front of the television cameras. Unfortunately, WGBH's TV crew, who might have given the event a little rational direction, had left, leaving WHDH Channel 5 alone on the scene. They were content to film the thing, to hell with conducting an interview or anything, so a veteran for peace made himself available for a rap of complicity by offering me his lighter. Since in the wind in 0-degree weather, ungloved and handshaking, I had a hard time getting the flames to catch. Meanwhile, John Millet is screaming, "He's a coward, he's a coward," and the longshoremen being restrained by the police on my right were into it with, "You ought to be ashamed of yourself." So I asked them why, while offering a burning classification notice to Joe to warm his hands. But the whole thing, this demonstration symbolic, but for lack of non-ego trip where I'll have to call courage, really got me high on the sublimely ridiculous incongruity bit when Joe, the flames licked from my freezing fingers, screams, "It's only a piece of paper." Exactly. It's only a piece of paper. It's not human, not the singed skin of a napalm Vietnamese child, not the charred remains of the Buddhist self-immolating identification with whom draft cards were burned at the Arson Street Church. It's only a piece of paper superfluous even to the bureaucracy that issues and establishes penalties for disrespect shown to their excreta. It's only a piece of paper, Joe. Just as the flag you wave is only so much cloth and dye, and if you die for the cloth, you're pasting symbolic vitals before human ones. We, however, attach no significance to the piece of paper. If burning it means anything to me, it's only because it means so fucking much to you. Like the long-haired told his parents when they approached him with scissors and asked why he could attach so much importance to such a trivial sign of defiance as long hair. It means as much to me to keep it as it means to you to have it off. It's only a piece of paper, the burning of which in private, in Greenwich at 2 a.m. means nothing. Only the context supplied by them race baiters and race haters provide any meaning. They called me coward. I identified myself fully to the newsman, fully aware that such open activity makes me a conspirator liable to 5 years and or $10,000 fine, while the man who threw the egg wouldn't identify himself, risking at most a mock charge of assault with a deadly dairy product. But took no courage among 200 fellow demonstrators, colleagues in crime protected by the police with only an occasional oversight, an occasional distant demonstrator spaced unseen for lack of focus of podcasts that perhaps did not want to be focused on such a scene. It took only conscience and a gut-level indignation. And contrary to what the longshoremen think, it takes no courage to kill. Put yourself in a shoot or get shot situation, gut-level self-preservation will give you all the trigger finger you need. Granted, it may take some kind of physical courage to attack as opposed to returning fire, but physical courage is relative to the situation too. It has morale as group courage transferred to individuals. But moral courage is where it's at. That's what Nuremberg was all about. The willingness to act in public and what your conscience tells you in your private most hours. The willingness to take the rap for what you believe. The ability to refuse to be put into situations where gut reactions take over contrary to your rational beliefs. It takes no courage to let the army put you through the changes. It takes moral courage to tell the army to fuck off with the changes they want to put you through and let you be put yourself through your own changes. Which is where the whole anti-draft thing comes from. For me, I figure conscription is at least involuntary servitude, if not outright slavery, and therefore in violation of the 13th Amendment, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime wherever the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist in the United States. When you cite this amendment to most people, they usually talk about a national duty argument country think you owe the country something, at which point it becomes necessary to clue them in on a few psychological realities about obligation. My reasoning runs like this. You're going to the United States arbitrarily, as opposed to the result of your volition. Granted the benefits of this grand country because your parents, as good Americans who pay their taxes to secure the blessings of freedom and democracy with their progeny. One of these blessings being inculcated with the unofficial but damn well universal American religion of the Protestant ethic, which includes the sacrifice now for future comfort notion, which has as its bastard corollary the semi-fatalistic, quasi-pragmatic doctrine of necessary evils. Americans believe in necessary evils. And one of the necessary evils is the existence of total institutions. And one of these total institutions is American compulsory education, where one is inculcated the myth of necessary evils. And since a belief in necessary evils is both a consequence and cause of a belief that there are no real alternatives, Americans never question the wisdom of sending their children to schools that's playful affect to enhance cognition, sacrifice creativity to the almighty intelligence quotient, and thus never hear of Summerhill. So the children graduate from grade to grade. Homework becomes more and more present for schools, are more and more of a total environment until the high school student feels himself a colonial subject. Kenneth Keniston and Paul Goodman, Edgar Z. Friedenberg, and all the other social scientists concerned with the alienation of youth from and by the total institutions created to acculturate them can only write books notionally about which each of us in the Pepsi generation knows experientially that American society is not free. Democracy is still largely theoretical, and every day becoming more academic and less actual, that our very existence as thinking individuals is co-opted by media poisoning, subverted by the Protestant ethic which reveres individuals but at the cost of love. It is useless then to tell us we owe something to our country. We have the country to thank for most of our hang-ups, and that debt we are paying interest on. And the way we serve this country is to educate its citizens, to educate them as to what's going on in Vietnam, what life is like in the ghetto, and what their mass education media poisoning society has done to our minds, so that the insanity by drugs is a truly attractive alternative to split-level, closed-mind suburban living. Why get brainwashed in a high school civic course when you can home laundry your mind by blowing it with an STP? All these blessings conferred on us were unsolicited gifts. You owe us no thanks for what you never asked, what we never asked for, especially if it fucks you up. And certainly the way to serve your country is not to surrender to the ultimate total institution, U.S. Army. Reading U.S. News and World Reports on the acculturation of beatniks into the ranks sounds like genocide. A platoon that begins with 3 beatniks will find that they disappear after a few weeks, never to be seen again. Reading a selective service orientation kit pamphlet on channeling sounds like totalitarianism. General Hershey refuses to be retired because he then had nothing to do and enjoys fucking American youth more than playing bingo, wants to draft resistance people to punish them, while somehow believing that serving in the forces is a paramount honor. The President calls for a study on how to limit the draft. The Pentagon comes to the conclusion that the voluntary army is feasible, reverses that decision because we got the draft already, and it's as American as apple pie. Conscription is a way of life now. 20 years of the peacetime draft has sufficiently affected generations so that the father or older brother who had to serve, like it or not, wants to put the same upon his son or younger brother. That the sacrifice they made was unnecessary is as repugnant to them as the idea that the Vietnam War is a moral war is to the U.S. fighting man in Asia. And if you think that all that pot boy indicates our guys are really turning down, you better get wise. The probability that reactions to a pot hire largely socially determined, and to the pot in Vietnam, coupled with our military morale, might just be making the frontline soldier more aggressive. We need to retire General Hershey. Give him lots of money so he can play the horses instead of bingo. We need to get the Pentagon to fess up about the voluntary army feasibility study. We need to back people like Milton J. Friedman, Goldwater's economic advisor, no less, but still a soundhead, Mark Hatfield of Oregon, and Congressman Curtis, all of whom think the draft should be abolished. And when we have a voluntary army, we can comfort ourselves with the thought that the government can no longer wage a war contrary to the wishes of the governed. Even when he's paid a reasonable wage, a soldier will not remain in the army if he disbelieves in the cause for which he's allegedly fighting. If the country inspires commitment, it will be supported by its people. If the government resorts to conscription, is an indicator that the government is not a free people, but a country that does not deserve to survive. I am now guilty of 5 violations of the selective service laws, punishable by a fine of 25 years in prison and or $50,000. I intend to continue accumulating violations. When they indict Dr. Spock, they must also indict me. When they prosecute me for one transgression, they must prosecute me for all and be guilty themselves of negligence and complicity. And if enough resistors are given life imprisonment for 20 counts each, maybe the country will discover that a draft card is just a piece of paper. Confessions of the two-time draft card winner by Tom Jarrell. I have the honor in the table, the notes on contributors to be listed between Paul Goodman and Martin Luther King Jr. The book came on sale for $1.95 back in 1969, and you had to pay something like $13 to get a copy. Now it's still in print, third printing. after 18 years. 19 years ago today, I was married. Paul Sincata will announce what's happening across the river tomorrow night, and then Jack will be back to make some announcements, probably about a big do happening in Lawrence.